All right, now joining me, Rafael and James Barlowe from NBA Draft Big Board. You can find their Substack. Rafael, James, how you guys doing today?
Good, man. Good to be on again. It's been, I guess, just a few weeks. I saw you in Chicago.
I know it hasn't been long, James. We only had 2 chairs in the hotel room.
I'm good. I can set screens. I can run the offense. Whatever you need me to do, man. I appreciate you having me on.
Oh, let's start out with some of the latest intel happening around the NBA right now. Rafael earlier this week reported that the Sixers, with what they could do with the number 3 pick, they're looking around. Kaman Malawach out of Duke is in consideration there. Trey Johnson out of Texas. James, what's your initial reaction to what Philly's thinking about at the number 3 pick?
I know what I would do if I were Philly. I would go with Ace. I understand Malawach at 3. You need insurance for Embiid because he's got a shot clock on how many games he can play. I do like Trey Johnson a lot, but I think that with Ace Bailey's size, it may just be a better fit in terms of like what they have going on with wing depth. I know Quentin Grimes is due to get paid, and I know Kelly Oubre, I think he has a player option. So I think Ace Bailey, not scaled down from like trying to be a scorer into a shooter. He fits what they want to do long term. You get 6'8", 6'9", however tall he is in shoes on the wing. I think that's a better fit for him. But I understand both sides as far as like Trey Johnson and Mount.
Rafael, is Philly is Philly thinking that Ace Bailey can't scale down, and that's why they could be looking around here with different options at 3?
I don't know what Philly's thinking, to be honest with you. I get that they're in a weird situation just because they have 2 guys that you have to assume they're in win now mode, right? I mean, they just paid Embiid a lot of money. They just paid Paul George a lot of money. You do need insurance for Embiid, so I understand that. And if you believe Malawach is going to be a starting caliber center and a star down the line, then you have to kick the tires on that. But I can't put a finger on what they're thinking. I know what I would do if I were Daryl Morey. I would go with Trey Johnson. But it's
why Trey? Why would you go with Trey?
Just when I look at what he did his freshman year at Texas, the SEC was historically the best conference as far as just teams in the tournament. He led the SEC in scoring, shot 39% from 3 on a heavy volume of contested shots. And so with him, you get a scorer, you get a guy that I think he's a better passer than Ace Bailey. He's a better shooter than Ace Bailey, a little smaller. The height difference is not what we thought it was. And I think he's, like I said, I don't know if I mentioned, but a better passer. I just think he's a better overall player than Ace Bailey.
James, you say Ace. Like, do you think Trey Johnson will be a bad idea for Philly? Because personally, I think Trey would make a lot of sense for the Sixers in the regard that like he adds a ton of shooting, adds more firepower in the backcourt. But then I looked, they have Jared McCain. They have Tyrese Maxey. Is it too much overlap in the backcourt would be my question with Trey Johnson there. Is if it's like, what do you think about that idea?
I'm all for firepower, but I just feel like Ace's defensive upside is a little bit higher. I mean, he is bigger. He was more active on the glass. He should be able to block shots in the weak side. And I think that the trade-off is, okay, maybe we're not getting somebody who can – we're still getting a very good scorer. I mean, like Ace Bailey played extremely well at Rutgers. It's just that in a scaled-down role, if he's like that Michael Porter Jr. type player who can make open shots and defend and rebound, I think that more so is what they need, especially since like their timeline is right now. Now, if Ace turns into something else, then you still could be getting a high-level, score. It's just that right now, 2-year window, really a 1-year window, I think they might need simple, and then they can still develop him into something later on down the line.
Is MPJ a fair comp though for Ace Bailey? I mean, MPJ had a flamethrower jumper in high school, flamethrower in college. He's a 40% guy on a high volume in his career. Ace Bailey hasn't had numbers at that level. He's also been like up and down from the free throw line for that matter. Are we sure Ace Bailey actually is an elite shooter?
That's a fair question. I believe he was at like what we would say league average. Rockets are smirking. He's at league average even in high school from 3. But I also think that some of that is the type of shots that he's taking. So like in high school, there are a lot of stare down threes. And even at Rutgers, there's still a lot of stare down threes. You're going to have to reprogram him. But if you reprogram him, he should be I think, even though the free throw percentage could go either way, if he's a 37% 3-point shooter at 6'8", 6'9", like you'll absolutely take that.
Rafa, you were smirking.
Always
Why?
smirking at me.
I just think that he's very, very streaky. And when he's on, he's incredible. But I don't know if he's a consistent shooter. And like you said, the free throw shooting. He hasn't been like a phenomenal free throw shooter either. So when I look at Trey Johnson, the 39% from three, 87% from the foul line, to me that says, all right, the shooting numbers are real. I just don't know how real they are with Ace Bailey.
Yeah, I have my concerns there with him too. I mean, like, I'm not the biggest Ace Bailey guy. Personally, if I'm Philadelphia, I'd be very, very open to trading down. I've heard the Pelicans at number 7 like Ace Bailey. Joe Dumars there sounds like he really and likes Ace Bailey. Could try to trade up to number 3 to Philly or number 4 with Charlotte. That to me is the best case scenario for the Sixers is you trade down 4 spots from 3 to 7. New Orleans gets their guy in Ace Bailey, and then at number 7, you can probably still get Malawach there. I would imagine he's going to still be there. I don't know if Trey Johnson would be there at number 7 for Philadelphia, but Malawach, like I don't see it. Correct me if I'm wrong, Raphael, but like I don't think he'd be going 4 or 5.
I don't know. If I'm Charlotte, I have to really consider it. I mean, you can't bring Mark Williams back after you traded him. And
No.
then he has to come back. Then he posted something after was the Lakers lost or something like that. I just think that relationship is probably, I just think it's probably damaged. And if Malawach can provide what Mark Williams provided, but he's healthier and he's cheaper and younger, to me that makes some sense there. Because if you let Mark go this summer, then who do you have at the 5? Are you playing Nurkic at the 5 next year?
No.
Yeah,
he's done. He should. I mean, soon he'll be looking international at some point. Like it's just the reality of it. Like he's near the end after a really strong career. But I do that's a good point about Charlotte at number 4. I think with them, like definitely looking for a big, even Derek Queen, if they were to trade down, would be interesting for them. With Jeremiah Fears, guard out of Oklahoma, you wrote earlier in the week that he could be moving into the top 5. Are we talking 4? Charlotte backcourt with LaMelo? Are we talking Utah? Danny Ainge has always fancied, guards in the mold of Jeremiah Fears, these spark plugs, smaller scoring guards. What are you hearing with Jeremiah Fears' rise, Raphael?
I've heard there's some teams that really like him, and there are some teams that feel like they would probably have to move up to get him. So Brooklyn is a team that I've heard that probably has some interest there. And so I've also heard from scouts from other teams that say that their scouting staff believes that he could be a better long-term prospect than Dylan Harper as far as just being like an exciting lead guard. And they talked about him being younger, and just what he did at Oklahoma was more impressive than what Dylan Harper did at Rutgers. So I think Dylan Harper is the consensus at number 2, but I've heard there's some teams that the gap is not that big between those 2 guys.
Is that a crazy thought for teams, James?
I said that he was a top 5 pick in December, so I don't think it's a crazy thought. I feel like
could he be better than Dylan Harper? Could Jeremiah Fears be better than Dylan Harper in the long term?
I think he could be better in the long term. Again, you ask yourself, what does Dylan Harper do better? Obviously, he finishes better at the rim. He's something like 65%, and he's bigger. But as far as like playmaking and the shooting numbers, they weren't, as far as like their high school to their college level, weren't too far off. And again, like Raphael said, Oklahoma has maybe one NBA player on that team besides him. And it was a historically great conference in the SEC. And they pushed UConn. They gave UConn everything. He was an engine. I talked to a college coach in the SEC, and he was like, he was one of our toughest matchups because he's hard to keep out of the paint. And then you factor in that he's 18. Like, he did all that, and he should just now be preparing for his freshman year of college. So I can see it. But, I mean, personally, I still think Dylan Harper is the second best prospect. I do think that while he, had his concerns at Rutgers as far as the jump shot, and maybe you say, well, how does a team that features another NBA top 5 pick only win X amount of games? But I do think that long term he is going to be really, really good.
Yeah, I mean, I think Harper's, obviously the outer rim finishing is awesome. He's so fluid in the lane, herky-jerky stuff. He's manipulative with his moves on the basket. And he's just strong. He's big, like you said. But with Fears, like if you're comparing the shooting upside of Harper to the shooting upside of Fears, you look at Harper at Rutgers his freshman year, he shot 36.8% on catch and shoot threes, 29.2% on pull up threes, 27.8% on pull up twos, 76.2% from the free throw line. And then with Fears, you know, the 3-point percentage on the surface was not good, 28%, but he was only 20.5% on dribble jumper threes, 36.1% on catch and shoot threes, 43.3% on mid-range jumpers, 50% on floaters, 85% from the free throw line. There's more good, you know, touch indicators for Fears at the college and high school level than there are for Harper. Rafael, I think with Harper, I think he's a great prospect, but I've heard people say generational. I can't get there calling Dylan Harper a generational prospect without feeling confident in him being a long-term shooting prospect. That's my feeling. Are you with me, or am I underrating the shooting upside?
Well, the word generational, it's just been used too loosely the last few years.
It's too much.
It's way too much. I think for Harper, if he can just improve as a mid-range shooter, because he was good off the catch. I just think for him, it's being a better mid-range shooter. Coming into the year, I thought he would struggle as a mid-range shooter because of the low release. And I know like James Harden doesn't have the highest release. I know Trae Young and Tyrese Maxey don't have necessarily the highest release. But I felt like with Harper, when he was shooting the mid-range shot, because his release is so low, it can turn what looks like an open jumper into a contested jumper. And I wonder with NBA length, it's just that little bit of space. Is that going to make it harder for him? But if he can improve as a mid-range shooter, I think for him, because of his size and teams are running multiple ball handler lineups, I think teams may see that he's more valuable off the ball too.
Rafael, this got aggregated earlier in the week. The father of a projected lottery pick told me the Bucks have been doing background work on his son. Was that father Ron Harper? Did he just tweet it out?
It wasn't Ron Harper. I can tell you that much. It was not Ron Harper. He started getting tagged, and then he had to reply. I woke up at like 2:00 in the morning. I got on Facebook, and it's like some site. That was the first thing that popped up on my Facebook feed, and everybody's going after Ron Harper. So if I see Ron at the draft, I'm going to apologize. It's because everybody's thinking it was him.
Who was it, James?
Something with the connection, man. I can't. I don't know. Something wrong with my internet right now.
I'm lagging. I'm skipping around.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I think on one hand, teams do their due diligence, right? Like teams dig around, right? On the other hand, you do your due diligence mostly in the range that you think you might be drafting, right? Like that's just the reality of it. And so like I understand the people that like are getting crazy about it, like, ooh, this could mean trade, but I also understand the people that are like, this is a nothing burger. Like Rafael, where do you kind of like, what's your assessment of your own report when it comes to like what could this mean for the Bucks and what they do with Giannis, or even, you know, something else, you know, moving up in the drafts?
It's just their due diligence. I mean, if Giannis says, I want to be moved, they're going to move him more than likely for a team that's probably selecting high in this draft. I couldn't imagine him wanting to go to, I don't know. I mean, just some of those situations make a little bit of sense. If it's Houston, they have a top 10 pick. If it's Brooklyn, which to me doesn't make any sense at all, other than maybe he wants to live in New York, they have the 8th pick. So I just think they're doing their due diligence, which they're supposed to do, because they're in limbo right now. They have no idea. I mean, maybe they do have an idea, but I mean, they are basically a phone call away from having to shop him, and you have a small time to make it happen.
Here's the thing, though, right? Like, I think from Giannis's perspective, you know, Houston would make sense, but from Milwaukee's perspective, all that makes sense to me is getting the best offer. That's it. I don't care if it's Charlotte. I don't care if it's Utah. I don't care who it is. I'm taking the best offer, and I don't know if that's harsh to say, considering the career Giannis has had in Milwaukee, but like, you got to do what's best for your franchise, and you've already gone all in around him. You've done everything possible. You won a title. You've traded future assets to maximize the team around him, and obviously it's fallen off in recent years because John Horst has whiffed on so many draft picks in the middle of the draft. But ultimately, you got to for your fans and for your future of your franchise and all the players that you would have moving forward, you just got to take the best deal. So like if some surprising team came out of nowhere and traded all their future picks for Giannis, like that's what you got to take. Is there, James, like what's your assessment of that Giannis situation and what the Bucks should be targeting in a return for him?
If I'm Milwaukee, I'm calling San Antonio, and I'm like, I need number 2, and I need Castle, and I need something else in the future. I feel like with 2,
so both guards.
Yeah, I need both of them because this is the start of basically a new franchise in a sense because of what Giannis means to Milwaukee. So if I can get 2 guys, especially with Castle, I mean, that was Rookie of the Year last year, and number 2 pick, we can build towards a future because, like you said, they don't have anybody, and you have to start something. You have to give fans a reason to want to show up. So San Antonio would be the first team that I would call. I get Brooklyn in a sense, but like Rob said, like with Brooklyn, they don't have anything to, like they have picks. So again, unless you just want to live in Brooklyn and play there, it doesn't make sense as a basketball standpoint. But I also think that Houston, though, it's a tough fit because of what you would have to probably give up to get Giannis. But like that Giannis needs spacing, and you're talking about a really good defensive team still. But like, who do you have to play around him that you wouldn't have to give up? So if it's me and I'm Milwaukee, it's San Antonio. And even if I'm Giannis, I'm like, send me to San Antonio. I get to play at Wemby. Wemby gets to shoot his threes, and then it's like good luck trying to score on those two, in the paint.
Man, dude, the big pick and roll.
Yeah.
Between Giannis and Wemby, with either of them as the ball handler or the screener, would be crazy, right?
Hey. Yeah. I mean, the lineup would be crazy. I mean, there could be some spacing issue. You'd have to fill out the rest of the starting lineup with guys that can shoot. If I'm Giannis, I don't know if I want to go to the West with Boston possibly being down or just the luxury tax and Jason Tatum's injury. I might want to stay out in the East.
I'd rather stay in the East too if I'm him. Like he's openly talked about the desire to win a second championship. I'm paraphrasing here, but I think he said himself, I'd consider it a failure if I don't win a second championship. So like you're like, dude, the West is just so loaded. There's going to be a good team or multiple good teams that miss the playoffs in the Western Conference. Whereas in the East, there's going to be multiple bad teams that make the playoffs. It's just the reality of it. Your chances are far better. Boston last year, their road to the East to the finals was a hell of a lot easier than it was in the West for Dallas. And then just like this year with Indiana, the path was easier. Not to diminish it, the path is just easier in the Eastern Conference than it was for Oklahoma City. So I think for Giannis, that's where things get interesting because, Windhorst reporting on Toronto looking for a big fish. I think there's 2 things behind that. I think Toronto, A, like they are open to trying to make a big move, but B, like Masai Ujiri's under so much pressure right now to progress that team forward. I think this is like appeasing ownership as well, like showing like, hey, we're going for it, we're trying. So I think there's 2 sides of it there with Toronto, but in general though, I think some of these teams at the bottom of the conference in the East, whether it's Philly with number 3, or like the less obvious teams like Charlotte, like who's to say you can't go out and trade for 2 guys and package them around LaMelo Ball and Brennan Miller and maybe you keep Miles Bridges in the deal, like you go get a big and you go get a scoring wing, like suddenly you could be a 50-win team in the Eastern Conference. Like I don't think a turnaround like that is that crazy when we just saw the Pistons get better after adding Tobias Harris and Malik Beasley. Yeah. Like the turnaround's going to happen really fast in the Eastern Conference, going from, bottom of the barrel to being a really good playoff team and maybe even a contender. So I don't know, man, like that's where like with your report about a father talking about the Bucks sniffing around, that's where I'm thinking like, it doesn't have to be San Antonio. It could be a team lower than that where things get really interesting.
Yeah, definitely. And with Charlotte, I just think health. They weren't they a playoff team recently, a couple years ago, or they played in or something like that?
They were like on the verge, like they were really close. Yes, exactly.
And LaMelo's been banged up, his whole career. So I think if you can get him to play 70 games, you got to figure Mark Williams hasn't played a lot of games. I think they're a team that, they got some. I think this new ownership group has made some changes, but they just need to be healthy, and I think they could be in that mix.
They were a 43-39 team during the 21-22 season,
Yep.
and they missed the playoffs that year. But that season, LaMelo played 75 games. Bridges played 80 games. They had Gordon Hayward that year. He played 49 games. PJ Washington, 65 games. So pretty healthy that season. Do you think it would be insane for Charlotte to go that route, James?
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. But again, if I am Milwaukee, like you're giving me the 4th pick and who else? I need Brandon Miller.
Future picks. A bunch of future picks.
Because they don't have any picks. They don't own the rights to their own picks for what, 2031 or something like that?
Yeah.
So they need picks.
Milwaukee, you mean?
Yes,
right?
Milwaukee, yes.
Yeah, Charlotte makes sense. I've seen on Twitter, I don't know how realistic it is. I know they don't have any picks, but Giannis in Atlanta would be interesting. Considering, Atlanta's one of those teams that's like, they're close, at least to a playing team all the time. And obviously Giannis pushed them over the top, but I don't believe they control their future as well. So it'd have to be like Reece Shea and probably Jalen Johnson. But again, if I'm Milwaukee, like, I really can't. Good players, but can you sell your fan base on those two guys?
Well, that's the thing. It's like, do you want the mystery box of draft picks if you're the Bucks, or do you want players that you've seen in the NBA and that you believe in? Like, it makes me think about like totally different circumstances. But when the Spurs traded Kawhi Leonard to the Raptors, they ended up trading for DeMar DeRozan, and like for them, like they wanted a proven guy. That's what they wanted. like it or not, they'd rather have DeMar DeRozan than they did Jaylen Brown from Boston, a less proven player at the time. And so for the Bucks, in a situation, everybody's talking about picks, and I do think they'll go for picks. I think that's the sensible thing to do. But you could see them say, well, maybe we want, a few less picks and players as well, and worry less about the draft picks. So I think that's a real possibility, but ultimately, I if I'm a Bucks fan, like, I want the picks. Like, just give me the draft picks.
You know why? I think that could be a possibility. I mean, I read Giannis's book. He thought he was going to Atlanta the whole time. I think he stayed at Danny Ferry's house, and then the Bucks ended up selecting him. I've seen the rumors that his agent is interviewing for the Hawks general manager or basketball operations job. Jalen Johnson is from Milwaukee. I mean, there might be some smoke there.
Is that true about Giannis's agent? I hadn't seen that.
Yeah, Mark Stein reported it. It's the same agent that represents Giannis and Bam.
Alex from Octagon. Wow.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I see it now from 3 weeks ago. I must have missed that 3 weeks ago. That's interesting. And Alex has been there from the beginning with Giannis.
Yes.
From
And
the
that's
beginning.
in Giannis's book. It was written by Marin Fader. I think I have it in my background. Giannis came to the States.
Me too, right over my shoulder, somewhere over here.
Great book.
Yeah,
great book. I actually
awesome
talked
book.
to Giannis about it. That's a whole different story. but
Did Giannis like the book?
No, he did not.
New York Times bestseller.
Yes, but he
didn't like it. What was his like cartoon movie or something made about his life? It's like when it's self-produced, it's like always what you like. When it's stuff you're reporting on that you don't have your hands on, of course.
Yeah, he did. It was funny because I saw him after a Mavs game, and he walked by and said, "Hey man, I enjoyed your book," and he was just so passionate. And I had my son with me. My son is 2 years old. He goes to games with me, but the way Giannis was just passionate about it, my son was a little scared. He started hiding behind my leg. Giannis wasn't screaming or anything like that, but he just said that he didn't really know much about the book, and it just came out a few days after he won a championship and so on. So I don't know if he wanted to have a bigger role in it, but he just wasn't too happy about it.
I don't think he had any role. I think Mirren reported that book on her own, and she reported the hell out of it. It's like so many great stories in that book. But yeah, that's interesting about. Yep. I had not seen that Stein report from 3 weeks ago with Giannis's agent interviewing for that Hawks position, because they still haven't hired anybody for that. Yeah, there's still no clarity exactly on what they're going to do with that position. When I texted you guys about coming on the show this week, I asked, like, is there anything you want to talk about? And James, you mentioned Noa Essengue. Why do you want to talk about Noa Essengue?
He's in a good spot right now in the sense that Everybody else is done playing right now, and he has an
He's
opportunity
still
to
going.
keep doing things. He had a 24-12 game a few days ago, and me and Rafi got a chance to see him in Dubai, and he's playing almost exactly the same way, just hard play finisher, fingerprints all over the game, he rebounds, he pushes the ball in transition, he plays the passing lanes. He's an interesting, very interesting prospect, considering that he's 18 and he just barely made the cutoff to be drafted this year. And I think he has a lot of upside. I think he had, a 20-point game against Portland in a preseason game. And it's just a matter of trying to figure out, like, how do you harness all this ability? And I also think that it helps that Pascal Siakam is playing in the finals. And Pascal had a similar energy guy now. Again, he turned into a playmaking four, but maybe that's what Essengue could be long term. But I think he's in a good spot. He's got fresh film and he's playing well.
Ulm's in the middle of the playoffs right now. He had 22 and 14 in game one. Game two, not quite as good. 7 points on 2 of 5 with 8 boards. But the 8 boards, Rafael, he always seems to impact the game beyond scoring, right? With Essengue. Like, it's not just about scoring with him. That's like what could turn him into something special. But he impacts the game in so many different categories. How would you describe Essengue to somebody who has never watched him play?
So my comparison for him is like a combination of Sean Marion and Tayshaun Prince. Marion could get you 15 to 17 points per game without a single play ran for him. And James and I, we saw him in Dubai, I think it was last spring. He had like 33 points and 17 rebounds. I don't even think he hit a single jumper that game.
He missed like 8 free throws too.
Yeah, it was just energy, rebounds, timely cuts, transition finishes, steals. It was just, he was super energetic. And then when I watched him play against Portland in the preseason, yes, Portland didn't have their full lineup, but the fact that he was 17 at the time in the NBA arena, he was still productive. I think the sky's the limit for him. And I think defensively, maybe he can be like Tayshaun Prince, just this long, swishy defender that can guard 1 through 4. Him being thin could help as far as him like chasing guys off screens and around screens. So I really like him. And just what I saw based off like the first playoff game, it made me think of Bilal Coulibaly a couple years ago, who just saw his draft stock skyrocket because he was playing in the playoffs. Everybody else had been home for like a month, and then he was number 7 or 6 or something like that. Yeah. And so I think Essengue could end up being in that range also.
Why is he not like top 4?
One, I think this is a year probably. There was so much attention on college basketball this year, which is good. You know, the last few years, I mean, you've covered the draft. Sometimes it can be a little hard to get the fans interested because they didn't get a chance to see the players. But I think for Noah, maybe there's a team that likes him. I mean, obviously, I think this class is pretty strong. But I think a team could really be intrigued by the fact that this guy's productive. He was 17 years old half the season, and he still has a lot of holes in his game. Like, he still needs to improve as a shooter, not the best creator. So you can look at it 2 ways. And I look at it like, if we can just add that to his game, then we really have something special.
Where do you have him ranked, James?
I got him going 9 to Toronto right now. And I know Toronto.
What about a personal board? What about your personal board?
Personal board, I've had him at 9.
Where would you put him?
I've had him in the top 10 throughout this whole time. Like I said, I was sold on him in Dubai. I liked what I saw from him at Basketball Borders last year. And then just the production is just always there. He's always getting fouled. He's always trying to dunk on somebody, and he's like 190 pounds. And like that level of like toughness, I know that league isn't, it's a good league, but for him to be that productive at 17, I know, Kevin, you laughing because they got you. But
I know all about that team and that league and those orange jerseys. I know all about it.
Let me give you your props, man, because you laugh that off every single time. I know some people would be like, I don't want to talk about it, or they dance around it. Like, if you're not making mistakes as an evaluator, it's not even your fault half the time. Like,
hey, I was with you. I was all on the Killian train, and ironically, they have the same agent, Essengue and Killian Hayes.
Like I said, I got PTSD from every angle with this whole thing. But I have to realize it's like dating. It's like, just because you dated this type of girl before doesn't mean the next one's not going to be like that. It's great. Well, with Essengue, he's a different person.
Yeah.
Different position.
Right.
There's a lot of differences. You can look past the orange jersey and the jersey and the league he's playing for. You can look past all of those things. I'm trying. I'm doing my best with him. It's more of a thing with Ben Seraph. With Seraph, it's like there's some of the questions with him, with the jumper and all that, like there was with Killian. But I love Essengue. I think he's a top 10-ish prospect for sure this year, and maybe he ends up way higher in redrafts in the years to come. When it comes to international prospects, Rafael, you tweeted out this week, Nolan Traore should be back in the top 10. Why is that? What did you see from him to close the season after he kind of fell off early on?
Well, I think that if the roles were reversed, and if you put Yegor Demon or Kasparas Giacochonis, even Jeremiah Fears, if they played in the French League or Professional League, I think they would have had the same struggles early in the season also. And I think if you put Traore in a college setting, I think he would have shined. And I had tweeted, this is the same guy that scored 45 against Barcelona in the Adidas Next Generation tournament. Giacochonis was on the floor for that game. Same guy that led the FIBA Eurobasket in assists that night in the game. Same guy that had 18 points in the Nike Hoop Summit in 2024. So he just had a rough patch. Yes, I get that he's very one-hand dominant and the jump shot's a little streaky, but I think he's still the same player, just had a rough patch, and he's just hasn't been able to recover, at least on draft boards, from the slow start.
James, do you feel the same?
Similar. I wouldn't put him back in my top 10. I think, like you said, he's a one-hand bandit for sure, and it's almost predictable. He's going left, he's shooting a jumper. He's going right, he's getting to the basket. But he did shoot 55. He is shooting 55% at the rim. And like you said, the jump shot, really it's the off-the-dribble stuff that kills him. But, I mean, overall, I think he's at like 29% on all jumpers. But unguarded, he's at 47%. So I think that there is a happy medium there. I just think that with him, I think the assist numbers, correct me if I'm wrong, could be there's an asterisk around it because of the FIBA rules. And I do think that his playmaking it's okay. There are signs where he does make a lot of really good reads, but then there's also times that there are predetermined reads. But again, that could come along with just the age factor. But if I'm Brooklyn and I don't move up to get Fears and he's there with that later pick, and I'm taking him. If I'm Miami at, I believe it was at 19 or 20, I'm taking him. I think he's a top 20 pick.
Yeah, I think I'm more with you there, James. Like, I think he's a top 20 guy. Again,
I'm taking him 10.
Maybe I'm maybe it's the French point guard thing where I'm going too far the other way now. I got PTSD everywhere because of Killian, man.
I've been getting that a lot. Like, I honestly have him at 10. Like, okay. I think, yes, like I said, if he played college basketball, I think we would rate him a lot higher.
Sure.
And then when I look at Yegor and Giacochonis, I like both of those guys. They're obviously bigger, but Nolan measured well. 6'3", 6'8" wingspan. But one of the things I really value in point guards is, can you consistently get 2 feet in the paint? And I think Traore can get 2 feet in the paint a lot better than those guys. So I'm kind of on my own on the island here, but I have him in my top 10 right now.
He reminds me of DeJounte Murray. Like, where you had questions about shooting, about Murray out of college, but like the blazing speed, the athleticism, the ability to get 2 feet in the paint, as you said, eventually the shot came along, and Traore did show some flashes. He got better in the second half as a shooter. So with him, maybe he ends up being one of those guys that somebody believes in, or maybe he falls and ends up in redrafts years from now. We have him closer to the top 10 where you currently have him, Rafael. Last thing I want to talk about is sleepers, because this week on Yahoo, I published 7 sleepers to watch who have potential to be late steals, kind of tying it to the finals, because a lot of late first, a lot of second round picks, undrafted guys on both of these teams. Lou Dort, Kenrich Williams, Caruso, McConnell, and Nembhard was the 31st pick. A lot of late first, early seconds. Rafael, you said you're also looking at sleepers this week, kind of for the same reasons. Like, it's, there's so many of them in the finals. Who comes to mind first as a second round guy or an undrafted guy that you think has the qualities to be one of these rotation guys someday in a future finals?
Well, one, I had to delete my article after I saw yours because it was very
No.
very similar. It was very similar.
Which
and I
names did we have the same on my list?
The one that stands out the most to me was Hunter Salas. I thought Hunter Salas was a first round pick last year. I would have definitely taken him in the first round. Went back to school and ended up shooting below 30% from three. And so that 1 year where he shot 40 in his first year at Wake Forest looked like an outlier year. But I thought he had some good moments at the combine. And he's a guy that I think that I don't even know what his range is right now. I mean, somebody could like him in the 30s and it could be in the 50s. But I do think that he can come in and help a team in a scaled down role where he's not expected to carry an offense.
I'm betting on the jumper with him, man. He made over 50% of his mid range jumpers in college. He didn't shoot well from three, low 30s, but he's an 80% guy from the line. He's an elite touch guy from the mid range area. I think that touch is gonna manifest at some point for him in the NBA from 3-point range. Don't delete your article though. Post it. It's just sleepers. It's not a unique idea.
We think a lot, and I mean dating back to the Killian thing, and so it's you beat me to it. I was like, all right, I gotta reframe it. So
push publish. You don't have to reframe anything.
It's gone now. So now I'm like, all right, who's the next Tumani Kamara? So that's what I'm looking for now. And so I kind of rephrased it, but no, I thought the Hunter Salas was that you wrote about was spot on.
James, who comes to mind for you?
I like Jameer Watkins out of Florida State.
Oh, I like that.
One of my favorite players. I tell Ralph all the time. My favorite role player in the NBA is Najee Marshall. I feel like you put Najee Marshall on the court, he's just a basketball player. He played point guard for them. He's a 3-and-D. Fought Jimmy Butler last year in New Orleans. He's one of those guys. I like Jameer Watkins. I think that the statistical profile that he had at Florida State last year was very similar to Najee Marshall's last year at Xavier. I think he is just a basketball player. The jump shot numbers you would want to be better, but we saw him at the combine, he was guarding Javon Small full court, and he ripped him a couple of times. He can pass, he can score, he's got the physical frame. I just think that he's somebody that if a team likes him and he just makes enough corner threes, he can do everything else at a really high level. And he's an older guy, and he should be able to contribute right away.
Let's go through my list real quick. Give me a agree or disagree for each of these names. Drake Powell.
Agree as far as him being a second round, because I think somebody
as a steal.
Oh yeah, definitely he's a steal.
Okay.
He was the guy that I had as a top. I think I had him as a top 15 player coming into the year. Just not a good situation for him in North Carolina.
Right,
definitely
James?
steal.
I agree. It's very similar to Ralph. I thought he was going to be a lot better in North Carolina. He stuck him in the corner and he had to play the 4. I think he has more. He's one of those guys that I feel like he has more offensive game than what he did get to show. And I think that, you can almost make the argument if his defensive counting stats were a little bit better, he'd be in the same conversation as a Carter Bryant.
Maybe he should be even without him. Ryan Nembhard, 22-year-old senior point guard out of Gonzaga. Rafael, agree or disagree? Sleeper.
Agree 100%. I was in my new article that I'm going to write. It's about guys that
just press
I believe
publish on what you got.
The first one is gone. It's gone. As far as guys that I think are going to stick, I'm having a tough time ranking him because I think he's going to be a guy that's going to stick and play 5 to 7 years. With that being said, that means he's a top 20 pick, right? I don't know if I would take him in the top 20, but if I think he's going to stick, every draft. I just saw that there's been 7 guys in the 2022 draft that have, they're in trouble. Their careers are in trouble. So with that being said, I think Nembhard is going to be a steal, and I think he's going to be in the NBA for a long time.
All right, let's rapid fire through these. You agree or disagree? 1-word answer on Kobe Bryant, James.
Disagree.
Yeah.
Ralph?
Agree.
Okay. Too much shooting. I think he's going to at least earn minutes. Elijah Martin, 23-year-old senior wing out of Florida. Agree or disagree, Rafael?
Agree.
James?
Agree.
Chaz Lanier, 23-year-old senior guard / wing, 40% guy from 3 at Tennessee this past season, 6'4". Agree or disagree?
Agree.
Similar to Brea. Agree, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Why do you believe in Lanier but not Brea, James?
I think Brea struggles on defense. I saw Cooper Flag. I saw Cooper Flag hone in on him. Huh? He is light, yeah, but I mean, I saw it's Cooper Flag, but like, I don't know, man. 17-year-old honed in on me game like 2 of the season. I don't think that's a good sign. Now again, the shooting is great. That's not what it is, but I think defense is going to be a challenge for him.
And last one on my list, Hansen Yang, almost 20-year-old center, Chinese center, 7'1" out of China. Agree or disagree?
You're asking the wrong people about Hansen Yang. I think we've been the leader of the Hansen Yang fan club for quite a while.
Youngster, man.
I'm all in on Hansen
for a reason.
If I'm the Nets, I'm not leaving the first round without Hansen Yang. So I agree.
He was so much better the second day of the combine, and he had no point guard on his team. Like, if he had a point guard, he probably dominates day 2, but he moved better in space. You saw the passing. He was hitting jumpers. Like Rob said, if that's Brooklyn, you got to take him.
Especially with all the picks they have.
You have to.
Yeah. Why would you not swing on him at that pick in the first round? It would be. I think it would be like malpractice if they don't. 7'1" with that skill level. Like, you guys were both way ahead on him in terms of like where you had him ranked, your evaluation of him, and what he did in Chicago at the combine. Like you said, his day 2 game. Everything was just better than day 1. And with him, the playmaking skill at 7'1", I don't know, man. Like, that's so important to have these. Like, the reason why I had him on that list is like who would be the Isaiah Hartenstein in this year's draft class? Is a 2nd-round guy, skilled big, who can pass the ball. He doesn't need to shoot. Hartenstein, like, people forget, like, kind of shot threes when he was a prospect. He doesn't do it any longer, but like with Yang, even without the jumper, he has the perimeter skill to play make and put the ball on the floor once or twice if necessary, make bounce passes inside, execute plays. He's just got a lot of skill, man. Got a lot. He won me a lot. Won me over a lot that week in Chicago.
And he's not a gentle giant.
He was making Alex Sarr's life hell in that under 17s or under 18s, and that's the number 2 pick. And Alex Sarr has all the defensive upside in the world, and Yang was trying to cave his chest in.
Rafael, why is Yang not like a top 15, top 20 guy? Is it just the mystery of like him playing in China?
I think so. I just think it's one of those things where you, like, when you think of Chinese players, obviously you think of Yao, but a lot of people think of Yi, Jiliang Yi, and the fake story that everybody claims that they saw the video of him playing the chairs, and there's no video of it. There's no video of it. And so I just think that
we could generate on Google VO now. We could probably generate a video of it. Yeah.
I had a friend tell me he saw the video. I said, "Are you sure?" It doesn't exist. But I just think that people didn't watch him. They didn't see him. And if they did, they saw him probably struggle a little bit at Summer League last year, where just the pace of the game was a little fast for him. But he's a guy that I've just really, really liked. And I just think he's being doubted a lot just because people don't really respect the CBA and the level of competition.
Rafael, James, appreciate you guys joining me. Where can we find your stuff?
Yeah, NBABigBoard.com. That is my newsletter website. And then Locked On NBA Big Board. That's where we do our podcast at least 5 days a week. So we're pretty easy to find.
Appreciate you guys. Thanks for joining me.
No problem. Anytime. Thank you.